ladies and gentlemen. Now, in today's video, we're going to be having a bit of a chat about the updated tier list for July 2020, and we've got a brand new column, the Solid God Tier column, and this is meant to act as a middle ground between Beyond God Tier and God Tier, because I felt like with the previous tier list, we've had a lot of like Beyond God Tier champions that really like are slipping down a little bit and aren't as good as some of the crazy broken champions in Beyond God Tier. But by the same measure, in the God Tier column, there were characters that were rising up, not quite Beyond God Tier, but kind of like in the middle, comparatively speaking. So I thought we needed a middle ground. However, I imagine one of the criticisms I'm going to get on this tier list is that I've used the word God Tier in 3 columns. Maybe it's a bit too much for some people. However, I think the use of God Tier, like in 3 different circumstances, is actually really important when it comes to newer players, because if we look at the actual like quality of champions, even in like the A tier, the God Tier, is characters like Gwenpool. And as a like hardcore endgame player, you know that champions like Aegon and Nick Fury are like the best skill characters. Stealth Suit Spider-Man, Blade and Hitmonkey, absolutely phenomenal as well. But as like a new or progressing player, a champion like Gwenpool is like actually broken. Like my girlfriend, she pulled Gwenpool as her very first 4-star champion and she just destroys everything. Gwenpool is ridiculous for a good like 80% of the newer content until you get to like deep stuff like variant content and also Act 6 and the Abyss of Legends. But there's still like a lot of stuff that Gwenpool is just really overpowered for, and I feel like, you know, all these champions that kind of God Tier or above really do live up to that title. They have certain circumstances and modes of gameplay where they can really excel. So all of this very powerful and bold language is just my way of highlighting that there are so many amazing characters in this game that can just, you know, put in the work and get the job done. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't trigger you too much, fingers crossed. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get into the standard tier list disclaimer as well. We've got disclaimers on top of disclaimers today. So the tier list is my rough guide to what I personally believe are some of the best characters overall in Marvel Contest of Champions on a comparative spectrum. Marvel Contest of Champions itself is a very complicated game. There are thousands of nodes, there are hundreds of different character matchups, and there are dozens of different modes of gameplay. Like, there's so much going on all across the game, so, you know, no one character is always better and always on top in like every single circumstance. There are so many different factors, so use this tier list for what it is, a rough guide to what I personally believe and what my opinion is on what some of the best characters are. And if you have a different opinion, you know, your list is looking a little bit different, that's fine. I'm a person, you're a person, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. We all have our opinions. However, if you believe a champion is ranked too high or too low, let me know in the comment section below, and also let me know why. Give me reasons why that champion should be moved up, moved down, not just like, you know, demote Colossus to meme tier, because Colossus, he's taken that very worthy promotion. You know, I'm always open to very well-written, constructive feedback on why certain champions are less or more valuable. So anyway, now that disclaimer is out of the way, let's get into the updates and new characters. Now, to start with the champion updates, we've got Red Guardian and also Black Widow joining the tier list. So Red Guardian is being added straight into the Solid God Tier column. Red Guardian, just a really good science champion. Ideally, you do want him awakened and also high sig ability, but he has some really great utility, especially against a lot of like really annoying nodes and also mystic matchups. So the first thing about Red Guardian is the character cannot gain any buffs. And at first, this might sound like a negative, but it's actually a huge positive versus a lot of mystic matchups, especially annoying nodes like where you'll find Dormammu and you have to like dash back and the degeneration's crazy. Because he doesn't gain buffs and those buffs don't expire, then you don't take like any degeneration damage from Dormammu. And there are also nodes like Spy, also ones like EMP mod where you would take like loads of shock damage when you're using the dexterity mastery, but you don't take any damage. So yeah, Red Guardian, just really solid science character. He's also got access to a a 12-second slow on his special one, which can also be refreshed by heavy attacks. So it's really easy to keep on applying this, and slow counters evade champions, it counters unstoppable. So yeah, that's just crazy valuable for so many really annoying matchups there. So that's such a good piece of utility. He also has great block proficiency, some really solid damage output as well, mainly in like shorter to medium fights. Longer fights, his damage, you know, it kind of takes a bit of a turn for the worst, because his shield and his damage charges take longer and longer to come back. But also, he has the ability to block unblockable and also heavy attacks, but at the cost of his shield charges, which is at the cost of his damage. So he's got some additional quirky utility. However, you know, if you want decent damage output, you don't really want to rely on that utility. So yeah, he's got kind of a few things that could be a little bit better about the champion to make him beyond God tier, but he's just like a really good addition to the science class, very fun to play, some nice solid utility, he counters a lot of mystic champions. So yeah, Red Guardian, at least in my opinion, solid S tier champion. Then next up, we got the movie version of Black Widow, who in all honesty, man, she could have been a little bit better, she could have had a bit more utility. However, a lot of people refer to this character as the shocked version of Gwenpool, and there are some similarities there. They're not exactly the same. I think Gwenpool maybe is a little bit better in some scenarios. However, Black Widow movie, she's got some really nice damage output. She's very fun to play. She also has a partial ability accuracy reduction on her medium attacks, and also via her disorient as well, which in certain matchups can prevent a lot of abilities from triggering, which is very nice there. Also, against opponents like Invisible Woman and Guillotine 2099, if she's caused to miss, she gains an evade charge to fall back on, so she's not going to immediately get like smacked and punished there. So she's kind of like a partial miss counter. However, it's like nowhere near as effective as like Stealth Suit Spider-Man or like Nick Fury in comparison. So yeah, Black Widow movie, very high damage, very fun to play, lots of shock damage, but again, she could be a bit better when it comes to the utility. But in terms of her performance overall, I think she is a God tier champion. Then moving on to the June champions, we got the introduction of Tigra and also Hitmonkey. Now Tigra is a really interesting one. I think Dark Zodiac uploaded a video of a 5-star rank 5 Tigra. It wasn't his gameplay, but it was somebody soloing the Collector with Tigra, and it's really impressive. But Tigra's playstyle has a very high skill cap. You really need to understand how the combat works, how spacing works, and also how the AI works and when they're going to throw their special attacks. But if you can play this character really well, she's very fun, works for certain matchups, but overall is a little bit lacking in terms of the utility, especially in comparison to a lot of Mystic champions. So I don't think she's going to be everybody's cup of tea, but she might get a promotion in the future. So to cover some of the pros of Tigra, she has decent burst damage, man, really fun to play if you do have that awakened ability and also a high sig level. You can access like a lot of damage very quickly. Also, you can infinitely charge her heavy, and while charging her heavy, you cause all special attacks to miss, and if you have one of like the primal senses active, you generate power while doing this. So it's kind of like Ghost's phasing that you do have to do like manually by charging the heavy. But yeah, this is where kind of like the skill element and the timing element come in, because if you can perfect this, you can really punish certain opponents like the Collector, for example, and completely avoid their special attacks as well. Also, finally, because again, she really doesn't have much utility, all of her hits apply a single non-stacking neutralize, which reduces the ability accuracy of the opponent's next buff by 100%. So it's kind of like a worse version of Stagger. It really doesn't last very long. Again, all of her hits apply it. However, it also doesn't proc the Mystic Dispersion Mastery, so it doesn't give her like that crazy mystic level of power gain that pretty much every other mystic champion has. So she does have like some cons in terms of the utility, and like the non-synergy with mystic dispersion, they're a bit of a negative for Tigra. However, I think, you know, a God tier promotion, if I see some really good stuff from this champion in the future, and they do become like a group of players that become really hooked on Tigra, I may consider it in the future. I need to see some more stuff stuff for this champion in terms of upcoming challenges. But yeah, I think she does have some interesting potential. She's, again, very different to a lot of other champions, but I like that, man. I don't think she's a bad addition at all. But then also alongside Tigra, we've got Hitmonkey, and Hitmonkey is a champion that you know, really lives up to the hype. Like, on the data mine stuff, certain people were saying skill Corvus, and I think, like, he almost fits that. I don't think he's quite up there at the Corvus level, just because Corvus has, like, the cheat death and, like, guaranteed auto block and evade counter pretty much all of the time. Corvus is really, like, in a league of his own. However, Hitmonkey is probably, like, the closest champion to Corvus that feels like Corvus to play. So you got guaranteed crits on the medium, light, and medium hit combo. There's really solid base damage. There's also smaller bleeds with a chance to critical bleed as well. Also, while he has his Assassin's Cunning active, which is a portion of the time, it's a decent portion of the time, he can ignore evasion. So this makes him like a pretty decent evade counter. Again, it's not quite as powerful as like Nick Fury or Aegon or Corvus's ability to kind of shut down evade champions, but it's really decent. And also via his Disorient, if you go into his Primal Rage, which means that you can't avoid evade in that one. So this is if you're trying to just reduce ability accuracy, you can apply Disorients if you play really aggressively, and get a pretty solid ability accuracy reduction. Again, he's not the best like ability accuracy reduction in the game. Archangel still really has that spot for a lot of matchups, but again, there's still some really cool stuff he can do. And also going into Primal Rage, he can remove a damaging debuff or stun at the cost of it. So if there's a node that is going to stun you after you know, like 20 seconds, like I think is it the Mesmerize node? I don't think it's Mesmerize, it's the one on a timer. But yeah, he could be in Primal Rage, that triggers, and that just instantly consumes the stun and gets rid of it. So yeah, I think he's got some nice utility for right matchups. But overall, Hitmonkey, really good champion, doesn't need to be awakened to be super good, but again, does gain a pretty solid benefit from the Suicide Masteries as well. But overall, man, all four characters are really good addition to the game. Then on top of that, we got Guardian and also HULKBUSTER buffed version going into solid god tier. Guardian, again, very new character. We've done some 6-star rank 2 and 6-star rank 3 gameplay on the channel, and he's just very impressive. He like never crits, which is a great counter for all sorts of champions like Mr. Sinister and nodes where you take like damage back on the crits, and there are all sorts of scenarios where critting is actually a bit of a bad time, but he makes up for it in terms of the damage he deals on his special too, and also the additional energy burst of damage on every single crit as well, or would-be crit should I say. He's also got solid armor up, a really high amount of resistance to bleed damage as well, so he should probably have like this skull icon, because he does work quite well with the Suicide Masteries, at least in my testing. But yeah, Guardian is just a really good addition to the game. He also has the ability to parry special attacks, and you'll perfect block them and also generate power, which is really fun. But Guardian's damage is just mad. If you just keep on spamming the special 3, you can just get like the most ridiculous special 2s in the entire game. But overall, I think Guardian, he could be a bit more heavy on the utility. Like, he could have a few more things to kind of make him like Warlock level, because he doesn't have a way to deal with healing aside from like just spamming the special 3 and then eventually getting to enough damage to overpower the opponent. But in all honesty, like, Guardian maybe in the future could have that Beyond God tier promotion, but I don't want to immediately rush him in there. I think solid God tier is probably the perfect ranking for the champion right now. But yeah, maybe in the future I might get a little bit of a boost. Also, really good block proficiency on Guardian. And then finally, we've got the buffed up version of HULKBUSTER going into solid God tier as well. Now, HULKBUSTER, after its buff, has insane damage once the rotation is mastered. Because after his buff, like the first day, man, I know some people that messaged me being like, dude, this buff is a little bit lame, it's not really that good. And then like 2 days later, once they learned how to like properly play HULKBUSTER and get into his like rotation and play style, they're like, this champion's broken, he's absolutely insane. So he does take a little bit of practice, because you need to throw those special 2s into the block and then get the timing right, so that right after you can spam those heavy attacks, generate like massive additional attack via the shocks, and then just nuke your opponent into the Shadow Realm. But once you learn how to do that, man, he's just crazy. He's so much fun to play as well. But again, it's going to take a a little bit of practice if you do want to get the most out of him. He also has massive regeneration from his awakened ability that triggers when he gets 15%. So yeah, this regeneration is huge. It's one of the biggest regen abilities in the game, so that's very, very good if you can use it like carefully on offense there. He also has the ability to fully drain the opponent's power and also power lock them for a few seconds on the special too. And again, that's kind of a core part of the damage rotation, is you need to throw that special 2 into the block there. He also has a very strong 20-second armor break on every special attack, so you can get down champions like Emma Frost, Killmonger, like any node or scenario where you need to apply an armor break, like HULKBUSTER is really, really good for. Pretty much always going to have that active in his rotation as well. Also, all special attacks are unblockable for the first second, so you can get through block to throw the special attacks. He also has armor up to counter Havoc. He has a really good stun on the special 1 for kind of finishing off fights, and he also has 25% bleed and poison damage reduction per armor up. And just on his base, if you're playing carefully, you can get 3 of these per fight, but I think Sasquatch brings in a synergy that gives him the 4th one. So with Sasquatch, you can actually get like full immunity to bleed and poison. But again, it's going to take you like 15 seconds, and you also need to get below 15% health as well. So it's a little bit of work to get the double immunities. However, I think with a reduction as well, you'll actually, instead of being immune to it, you'll take like 0 damage, I think, and start healing up from both. But yeah, I need to do a bit of testing on that one with the Sasquatch synergy, man. But I think he's going to be available at some point in the future for a bit of testing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for HULKBUSTER, man. They did a really, really good job on his buff. He's so much fun to play, really, really solid character. So yeah, I think he is a solid god tier champion. Now to address the elephant in the room, I've moved Colossus up to beyond god tier, and I think he really deserves this. Again, alongside playing this game, I watched so many people play this game on YouTube, via live streams, via videos, and I really pay attention to a lot of the trends. And I've seen so many people using Colossus for Act 6 100%, Labyrinth of Legends 100%, Abyss of Legends, all sorts of paths and encounters there, and he's just been an MVP for so many players. I feel like I've really undervalued Colossus after his buff, but I just see like so many people kind of taking this man up to rank 5, and he's just destroying absolutely everything. So I think he's very worthy of the Beyond God tier promotion. I think every time I've put out a tier list this year, he's like always been in the comments section. Everybody's like, dude, you need to promote Colossus up there, and I think he's very, very worthy of that Beyond God tier promotion. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. At the same time, you know, some champions I have moved down slightly just because I feel like they've been overshadowed by certain Beyond God tier champions and are lesser used. Examples are Starkanaut Spider-Man. I love Starkanaut Spider-Man. He's still a crazy champion, hits like a truck, some decent utility. However, Ghost Warlock and Guillotine 2099 are just more powerful, especially Ghost and Warlock, man. Ghost is just ridiculously broken, and it's really hard for anybody to compete with Ghost and her phasing ability. But Stark Spidey, I don't think he's like quite up there in the Beyond God tier anymore, and really did have a limited amount of uses and stuff like Act 6. And Blade, I still love Blade. I think Blade is like amazing for so many different like Mystic and also villain matchups, but I think a lot of the bigger Mystic matchups, Human Torch is really the MVP for now, and a lot of scenarios where you need like a skill bleeder, it's really either like Nick Fury or Aegon when it comes to the skill class. So I still think Blade is a really, really good champion. I still think he's a solid god tier, but I think he's like a little chip below some of the best in this game at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And also Symbiote Supreme, I moved down a little bit. I've thought that like Symbiote Supreme, Longshot, Black Widow Clairvoyant, Sorcerer Supreme, and Magic are kind of like Mystic champions that are all on the same level of, they're all really, really good in like one way or a particular scenario. However, the thing is, man, in the Mystic class, you got Doctor Doom, and Doctor Doom is ridiculous. He is so crazy insane. For a lot of the most annoying Mystic matchups and scenarios, he's just ridiculous for Alliance War, just like absolute absolute MVP for Abyss of Legends, you know, can take on all sorts of fights there. So yeah, I feel like still a lot of the Mystic champions are a bit overshadowed just by the almighty power of Doctor Doom, but it doesn't mean they're bad champions. They're still really good, and I think like each one of them has a particular scenario where they overtake Doctor Doom. But again, I think overall, like Doctor Doom, he's just a friggin' boy, man. He's just so incredibly good. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much it for today's tier list update and revamp. So hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please do smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. But aside from that, thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.